Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Reverend Michelle Scott-Huffman. My pronouns are she and her. I'm the minister here at First Unitarian Universalist Church. I am a middle-aged woman with short, spiky hair that's more gray than sometimes because I just got it cut, and that's when all the gray shines through. Wearing blue pants and, surprise, surprise, a plaid shirt. And a ring that my young friend Vonnegut has given me this morning. So, very excited to have that ring. Thank you, Vonnegut. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that power at its best is love, implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. In Dr. King's work for justice and equity, love was the very foundation. There was always a struggle with regard to power and justice, but there was never any question about whether love was present in the movement. In fact, King was quoted when asked to define love, saying, "Love is the greatest force in the universe. It is the heartbeat of the moral cosmos. One who loves is a participant in the being of God." For King, love is physical, it's emotional, it's anthropological, and it's theological, and more. And you may remember from my message a couple of weeks ago the definition of love adopted by the late Bell Hooks: the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Today, I'd like to add one more layer to our understanding of just what we're talking about when we talk about love, and dare to imagine that our love and the actions to which it calls us can make a difference. That in fact, it can shift the narrative. It can, as our song this morning that we sang and the Judds have reminded us, build a bridge. And in fact, it can change our world. Yesterday, some of our young friends, the almost youth, if you will, gathered here in the sanctuary to explore the theme of love that we've been discussing this month, and they helped to decorate our whiteboard for today and left us some space to imagine together just what love can do. So for folks who aren't here in the sanctuary or folks too far away, the board says love can. It has a drawing that says love is awesome. And there are thought bubbles on the board that say love can at the beginning, where you can finish the sentence later today if you are so inspired that you imagine something new that love can do, not just in our own individual lives, but in this world that we inhabit together. If you are watching on Zoom or on Facebook Live, you are welcome at any point to put in the chat or in the comments what you believe love can do. Now, many of you are thinking right now that I'm speaking nonsense. Naive optimism, touchy-feely, mushy stuff. The world doesn't really work that way. I want to push back on that and ask you, if your love for someone isn't accompanied by the kind of words and deeds that make a real difference for both them and you, is it even love? I mentioned that I wanted to add a layer to our understanding of the word love. So the other voice that I want to invite into the conversation today is that of Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, the first woman, first person of color, and first African-American called to serve Middle Collegiate Church in New York City, where the tagline is love God, love neighbor, love self, love, period. Dr. Lewis preaches, teaches, writes about, and acts out of what she calls fierce love, which she believes, when practiced in regular small steps, can love the world into healing. Lewis writes, We are the ones we've been waiting for to write a new American story, to find a way to build fierce love in the world. We don't have to think of ourselves as activists or organizers to do this work. Every day, like flossing and brushing our teeth, like praying or meditating, we can make choices toward justice, fairness, and equality. She said her mother instilled in her a simple practice grounded in a simple question: what would love have me do today? Now, there's plenty of research and writing about the healing effects of love on the individual person. Harvard scientists studying social connections determined that positive social connections help to relieve harmful stress levels, which can adversely affect your arteries, your gut function, and your ability to regulate insulin, among other things. The study also showed that having positive, loving relationships can help boost your immune system. From the extended hug that can lower a person's blood pressure to the release of oxytocin, known as the love hormone, that is known to be connected to empathy, trust, and relationship building. In addition to the clear physical benefits, it's been proven that having healthy and loving relationships with others can have a big impact on your self-worth and self-esteem. Feeling loved and valued by others helps to promote healthier lifestyle choices, good self-esteem, lessens stress factors, and provides better lifelong mental health. So, there's no good reason to stop at enjoying the healing power of love in our individual private lives when we know the value of that healing. We know that we have the ability to improve social bonding and to build a stronger and more loving, just, and safe world for all people if we will take those benefits of love in our own lives and turn them outward and share them with a world that sometimes struggles to show love to each other in public. But shouldn't our own transformation and health have a higher purpose after all? I'm sure you're familiar with the saying, hurt people hurt people. But we forget that the rational extension of that thinking is that healed people can heal people. Hooks and Lewis both offer a framework by which they believe love can heal the world. Hooks lays out the concentric circles of love, saying whenever we heal family wounds, we strengthen community. In doing this, we engage in loving practice, and that love lays the foundation for the constructive building of a community with strangers. The love we make in community stays with us wherever we go. With this knowledge as our guide, we make any place we go a place where we return to love. Likewise, Lewis also sees the extension of love outside our personal, intimate circles to the wider world as a way of bringing healing and wholeness for all of us. She writes, when we love fiercely, we have the power to change our circumstances and to build a more just society. Imagine this fierce love as our shared spiritual practice. Rather than creating rules and regulations that erect boundaries between us, we might practice our religion or ethical framework with its true meaning in mind, binding us to one another, enabling us to see our connection, that we are kin. Our faith practices could simply enable us to see our shared humanity, our inextricable connection. Sometimes it's hard for us to see our connections with other people because we have siloed ourselves into the spaces with the people who are most like us. Because what we see when we go into a space where people are different from us, out of our sense of fear or rejection or whatever the case may be, we see someone who is other. And our faith traditions, our faith exercises, whatever that is for us, should lead us to a place of deeper connection. Deeper connection with ourselves, deeper connection with the people in the world around us, deeper connection with the whole of everything that is. The interconnectedness of all things, as we might say in Unitarian Universalism. When I think about how we make such a necessary and fundamental shift in the outward projection of our own love and healing onto the world, I'm reminded of a small but profound lesson I learned as a parent of teenage children. Those of you who have parented teenagers or tweens have probably experienced this. Those who haven't have probably seen it in a public space. Those who have young children, good luck. Here's what I learned as a parent of teenagers. When they come at you, because they will come at you, it rarely has anything to do with you at all. Oftentimes, it's a reaction to a great deal of stress and anxiety and frustration and fear and whatever the case may be. They're feeling something that they don't know how to express, as most of us don't know how to express because we haven't been in a world where people allow us to express the truth of our own feelings and experiences. And so my teenage children would come at me with all of that, and it would come in the form of words about what I didn't or how I can't or why they're not gonna. And my response when I'm in my less enlightened moments of my life would be, "You're not gonna talk to me like that," or something equally off-putting. There was a moment when my oldest daughter was in high school where I just knew in the depths of my soul that she was struggling with something big, and it had nothing to do with the thing that was presenting in the moment. And what she needed from me was love and understanding. And I wrapped my arms around her and I just held her until finally she loosened her body. It kind of melted into me and the tears flowed, and she was able to see that I was willing to listen to what was going on and to hear her frustration and to love her through it, and not to be yet another challenge in her life that she didn't need. After I learned that, parenting got easier. It was never easy, but it did get easier. And so I imagine how we take that and turn it out into the world, because most of the unpleasant interactions that we have with people have nothing to do with us, but have everything to do with a struggle, an anxiety, a fear, a problem that someone else has experienced that gets projected into the space and into the conversation that we're a part of. And we can't just go around grabbing people and hugging them. We can ask, would you like a hug? That's a thing. Jackie Lewis talks about it in her book, about being in this place where she was young and didn't have money and didn't have resources, and away from the people that she felt known and loved and safe with. And she was in a space where she'd been in a car accident, and her husband was in the hospital and he was being cared for, and she was just alone in a strange place with no resources, and just broke down in this public place. And she's a young Black woman, and she says this older white woman just walked up and said, "Can I hug you?" and gave her a hug. And how that broke her in that moment from the thing that she was experiencing to this realization that we can just love each other, that she was worthy of being loved, and that even a stranger could see her worthiness and her dignity and love her through the thing that she was going through. And she talks about that being a shift in her life and in the way that she sees the world, and in her understanding of the ways that fierce love can change things, can change the world. I spend a lot of time at the crisis cold weather shelter. And this week was there 2 nights in a row. We were only open 2 nights. And I was there for the 2 nights that we were open. And I was talking a lot with the volunteers who check people in. And so you may or may not know how that system works, but people who are unsheltered in our community can go to Grace United Methodist Church at 5:30 in the evening, and if they would like to go into a crisis cold weather shelter, they can sign up. There's transportation to get them there, and all of those things. And so we get the things ready in the shelter, and we're just kind of waiting for the bus to get there. And the volunteers were talking about their different experiences of different nights that they work at the shelter. And they said, I don't know what it is, Michelle, but there's something about the nights that we're here with you that everything is different from the very beginning. I was like, well, it's really simple. The thing that I do is I greet people at the door, and I try to diffuse the tension in the moment. Because friends, if you're carrying all the things that you own in the world and moving from place to place at someone else's schedule, and when someone else will get you there, and all the people around you are struggling with things also, like, it's a tense place to be. And so oftentimes when folks get off the bus, there's kind of this like pushing and bumping and this, you can almost feel the temperature rise and this kind of boiling that starts to happen. But if there can be love that breaks that up, if there can be a smile and a welcome and a how was your day, and there's going to be space for everyone, so let's just have some conversation here. And then we let in one person at a time to go and sign in, and the volunteers are like, oh, the table wasn't turning over on me because all the people were pushing in, because we were out there having conversations, right? That's not to say that I do all the right things and someone else doesn't do the right things or whatever, but it is to say that I know from experience that just loving someone can diffuse almost any situation. And that love doesn't have to be reserved for the people that we get married to, or our kids, or our close inner circle of friends. Some of y'all don't even know yet that you can tell your friends you love them. So let me say that. You can have a close inner circle of friends and you can love them and you can say it. And maybe that's the next step before you get to the place where I can love a complete stranger and I can say that too. And I can say, do you need a hug? Or I can know that someone needs a smile. Or I can know that someone needs to be seen and have their dignity affirmed by having just a conversation as they're waiting for the next place to receive a service. I know y'all think I'm like an idealist or something, but I promise you this will change the world. I promise you. Just do it. When you pull up at the gas station and the person next to you has the most offensive bumper stickers you've ever seen in your life, give them a smile and say, hi, how are you today? We have to break down the barriers that separate us from each other. And the way that we're going to do it is this thing that has been freely given to us. It's this gift that already lives inside us. We know how to love people from our very earliest days. We're born into this world as tiny little helpless creatures full of love. So let's just take ourselves back to that. Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis says this is the kind of fierce love to which we are called. This kind of love is not a feeling of sentiment, it's radical, transformative action that takes risks to see the common good. It sees our neighbor better than they see themselves. It makes sacrifices. It creates a way out of no way. May it be so. Blessed be.